Great, really interesting stuff. So any questions from the floor? Sue?
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. It's just been so interesting. I work with Ashton, which is a climate solutions charity, and I wondered what each of you would think about, your top tips on how to scale up at the speed that we have to within business, because that's crucial, isn't it? And maybe the charitable world, the SME world can feed into that. I mean, of course they can, but crucially, how do we get businesses of whatever scale to really understand the urgency and collaborate?
That's a really good question. I'm conscious of how long this particular episode will be going on for. So why don't we use Sue's question as the perfect way for us to round up what we've talked about here today, and try and draw some conclusions, because I think that sums it up in a way, is that what can we do to collaborate to move this thing on quicker? So anybody want to kick off first with solution number one? And they can overlap as well. So
for me, it's around where you get the finance from. So I think finance is the key. So I think if we can pair up the innovation, we can pair up the grants in order to de-risk those projects, private investment will come in. And it'll come in really fast because they're all looking for these opportunities. But, they want it slightly de-risked. So not all of them, but, so I think that's there is that kind of blended finance model that, we need to get the kind of governments and the private investors on board, and then to get these technology, because you're right, they are all out there, and there's some amazing technology out there. So
yeah, okay.
I'll jump
Yeah,
in.
go.
So for me, it'd be around communication, but not just from a marketing point of view. I mean, particularly, you're talking about finding those businesses and those individuals who have got innovation and ideas. And I think a lot of the challenge at the moment is we've got all these amazing solutions. We always hear about them, but we never really see them, and they're really hard to find. And so it's being able to help those people who are at the early stage. Often there will be smaller businesses to break through. And I think they've got to come in with a really strong pitch about what that is. And it kind of goes back to the point earlier about that they really do have a really strong value, impact, message, solution to get out there. But my personal experience is a lot around, it's not storytelling from a marketing point of view, it's storytelling from helping the individual find the purpose and the passion so that they can step up and be the leader they need to be. And of course, part of that is them sharing it and being able to put it on video, but to communicate that. And so my experience is a lot is working with kind of TEDx speakers, and there are some amazing speakers we find, and they have no confidence in themselves because, they don't have a massive, if it's an early tech, it's not out there yet, and they're still working through this. And so it's really giving kind of the people who are leading these new solutions the space, the time, the support to find their voice both personally, but also how that then resonates with the audience who is going to want, need, and get value from this, and get that communication across, because communication's at the start of everything, be it internally, be it at an investor level, whether you're pitching, or be it in your marketing and how you get this out there. So it's communication, but giving people space, time, and support to find the right message for the right people to allow these solutions to go from an idea to something that actually is out there in the world making a big difference.
Excellent. Any who wants to go next with?
How do you grow fast? How do you make a big change? We've got 3 years to solve this problem and really start making a proper difference. We've got to copy what works well. So we've got to share ideas, and we've got to be able to copy. And small businesses, startups, people who have no idea what ESG stands for, need the opportunity to be able to ask people who are doing really well at it and to learn quickly. And there's just got to be, I think, a bit more openness in business to be able to share those ideas. Otherwise, we're just going to fail.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
What I observe, which I think is related to this, the last 3 big organisations I've worked in have been struggling with kind of future operating models with much more porous boundaries around the outside of their organisation. So not thinking about, and so this really speaks to collaboration, like how can you have radical collaboration in a way, big, small or medium-sized enterprises for the benefit of the environment or just the benefit of your business, but how, we were sort of joking about a business, transformation, like a business revolution, and completely like thinking of yourself as a member of an ecosystem. And not just tendering, but working in genuine partnership, and kind of radically redefining the boundaries of your own organisation and how you interface with partners, consumers, employees, whatever it might be, government, regulators. And it's big, and it won't happen in 3 years because quite a lot of this, to your point, is driven by investors who are not typically that radical, and they're not appreciative of that sort of radical rethink, and it requires founders and people to want to do it. So it's a bit of a naff answer, but it's like, how do you collaborate with greater intent and more radically? Because that's what it requires. And that requires, I think, a bit of a rethink about the traditional boundaries. You were talking about, are we all sort of doing it for our own best interests? Well, sort of. We're still seeking distinctiveness. But what does it take to break that down so that we can all help each other succeed together? And I think there are some people doing some interesting thinking. I don't have the answer to it. But I think people are really rethinking in quite radical ways what businesses are for and how they're set up with this intent around collaboration. And so I'll wait till the great thinkers who are on that work to kind of, serve up some answers to it. But I think that collaboration is the key to that.
And that great thinkers leads me to conclude with you, Ralph. So, yeah.
All right, well, I'll try and have some great thoughts. I had the time to try and concoct some. So the question was, well, how do you get businesses to go faster, right? I think that was it. And I think, at the end of the day, I'm a social scientist, and businesses are run by human beings. And the way that you get human beings to change their behaviour very quickly is you tell them it's a matter of survival, and you educate them about that. And then you tell them that they don't have a choice. And then you tell them how to do the right thing, right? So if we play that out at a real macro level, in the last 3 years, we have experienced something that if someone had told us that we were going to do it 10 years ago, we wouldn't have done it, right? COVID and lockdown. So if someone had said, no, the whole country, in fact, the whole world, more or less, is going to sort of lock itself up and be completely sort of starved of its freedoms and whatever, we would have sort of said that is not going to happen. But what actually happened then was that governments around the world were quite successful in telling us that we were at risk if we didn't do this. Then it didn't give us a choice, because of the things that would happen to us, fines, lock-up, or whatever it might be. And then they gave us some guidance on how you kind of do all of this, right? And you might say, well, it was a bit noddy, but at the same time, it kind of worked. We did get through it, and it was kind of okay. So if you take that into ESG, I think it is, there probably could be more done on really going hard on this is not going away, because the world isn't going to cool down on its own. And if it keeps heating up at this rate, we are screwed. So I think we could maybe do a bit better on that. But ironically, I suppose businesses and governments, certainly in the sort of Western world, maybe have got okay on sort of going, you don't have a choice. Because if you think about that tender document that comes from Unilever because of the commitments it's made, to its own shareholders, and how it feeds into its supply chain, effectively what Unilever or any big business doing that is saying is, you may feel like you've got a bit of a choice now, but the fact that you've got this document sitting here and we sent it to you, you know that it means that in pretty short order, you haven't got a choice. We are not going to choose to do business with you unless you satisfy certain criteria around this. And then I'm going to take it back to B Corps, because why wouldn't I? And then you've got to show them how to do it, right? And that's why I love the model. Forget the fact that the company I work for is a B Corp. Great. But the reason I love it more is much more because when you just take the tool, you can give it to anyone. You could give it to my mum, very intelligent human being, but hasn't been in the workforce for sort of 20 years. Or you could give it to my adult, just entered the workforce sort of child, and they get it in a nanosecond. So, that's the way that you do the right thing. And I think that will get things going pretty fast. Ironically, the middle bit fastest. The big companies saying, we're sort of not going to do business with you unless you satisfy these criteria. That will make things go faster than you could have ever really thought, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and just to finish on that point, those of you who were at the last live show we did here heard from Matt Tideman at Imaginators, which is a medium-sized, large print business, who told us the story of the fact that almost pre-lockdown, all of their waste went to landfill, and almost post-lockdown, they developed a new system where, long story short, and he showed us them here, it comes back out at the other end in the form of traffic cones and base for Harris fencing and sleeping policemen, and the circular economy story. But Matt would say he's won business on the back of that from big organisations, kind of saying to him, you need to fix this because we can't be having this on our watch, basically.
Yeah.
And so there's that commercial imperative as well to be able to say you can win by doing it, I think, which is so important to tie those things together. I'm very, very conscious of time, and we could clearly, I think everybody here would agree, and anybody watching this, that there are so many different bits that we could segment outwards, and maybe we will at some stage as well going forward. But one thing that just struck me listening to what you guys said is that if I may just talk about the Environmental Business Network for a second, which is free to join. Our mantra is learn, share, connect. And I think I've heard this here tonight. This is what we've got to do. We need a platform and a motivation for people to come together and to do that point of going, hey, I learned something. It might be I learned how not to do it, back to your point, Alison, earlier. Or it might be I've learned how to do it. But that learn, share, connect is so, so important. So to this panel, wow, fantastic stuff. I think that if I should have put a price ticket on this and we would have made a fortune out of it. But to
Not on a Friday night with the football going on. You might
forget the football. England aren't playing till tomorrow night. That's now you've just dated this completely. I'll have to edit that bit out there. Yeah. So, okay, so to the panel, thank you very, very much. Liu, to Louise, to Emma, to Alison, and to Ralph. Fantastic stuff. Massive round of applause for you guys. Thank you very much.
The Environmental Business Network is here to help all businesses adapt to and benefit from the very different economic and environmental futures we all face. Subscribe to our YouTube channel or visit the website to find out more information.